Welcome, everyone, to our virtual ensemble session today. I'm Devlin DeCutler, your host, and co-hosting with me is Kristen McCloskey, and we are delighted to share this with you. The whole world took a crazy, crazy turn a few months ago, and all of a sudden our whole lives got flipped around, and we had to figure out how to do things digitally. And for most of us, it was paralyzing or terrifying or any number of negative things. So my goal for you today is to walk away from this session with a really good idea of what the whole process looks like. We're not going to look at any particular part of the process with incredible depth, but we're going to look at a comprehensive list, every single step along the way that I could possibly think of to create a virtual ensemble. Really briefly about me, I'm the music director at Townview Magnet Center. And when all of this happened, I had never done any serious video editing. I had never created a virtual ensemble, and the only video editing I'd done had been very small. Had a moderate experience audio editing, but I would consider myself an absolute beginner in all of this. And over the course of the last few months, I spoke with some incredibly helpful people and I sought out some really great resources and I figured out how to do it. And I put together 3 virtual ensembles during this time. And so that was my big learning process. And I'm going to be sharing that process with you throughout the course of our session today. So moving along. A lot of you said just a moment ago that you had never done a virtual ensemble before. So what is a virtual ensemble? A virtual ensemble has multiple parts because it's an ensemble. Typically, each part is recorded individually and separately from a different location usually. This allows musicians or any kind of performers that are in your virtual ensemble to perform together, even though they're not in the same physical location. Now, up until now, that sounds a lot like a studio recording process. You know, everyone comes in individually, they record their part individually, and then they're put together afterwards. The big difference between a studio recording and a virtual ensemble is that studio recordings are usually done in the same venue with a bunch of professionals, and a virtual ensemble is usually done with amateurs, simple recording equipment, and they're spread out in all sorts of different locations. The second thing is that it's usually done with videos as a continuous take, meaning it's not spliced together a bunch of different videos. It's one solid video from each performer that you see, periodically throughout the presentation. So that's kind of what we're looking at. This is your standard kind of grid view. So this is my first foray into virtual ensembles. This is one that I made with my select pop group. So that gives you an idea of what that looks like, and that continues on. This is one scene, so to speak, where all of the performers are the same the whole time, and then at the very end of the video, we get kind of the conclusion. So this one had 12 people from my pop choir, which are advanced kids. They learn music really well on their own. They didn't need a whole lot of guidance. In my opinion, that is the easiest way to start a virtual ensemble, is you start with a small group with a very straightforward piece of material, whatever that is for your content area. And then you have a very straightforward plan. Obviously, you can get more complex than that, but that's a good starting place. Things to think about is that this is a process. So when I was doing some research on this, a lot of instructional videos, if you go to a YouTube that says, how to create a virtual whatever, most of them really only focused on the final portion, on the editing portion of it. They didn't really focus on the actual process to get there. That's like saying how to put on a concert, walk on stage and perform. And so it didn't really lead into all of the necessary steps before that. That's what we're going to go through today. You need to be reasonable with yourself and set reasonable goals as far as your timeline. Saying, oh, well, we're going to put a virtual ensemble together for next week is not, in my mind, very attainable. So keep that in mind. Give yourself lots and lots of time. It all depends on where the students are ready for the learning process, but you'll see as we go through the steps, this can easily take several weeks to a couple of months, depending on if you're starting from nothing. Don't try to rush through it. Don't stress yourself out. Flexible deadlines at the end of it are your friend. Especially if it's your first time, your students aren't going to really know what to do, and so you're going to need to walk them through the process. The smallest virtual ensemble I made was 12. I made another with something in the mid-20s, and then I made another one with 80. So as you add more people, it does get significantly more time consuming. So just kind of keep that in mind. But there's really no limit. I mean, Eric Whitaker does 10,000 or something like that. So you can really have as many as you want. The ways that I'm giving you today are going to be, in my opinion and in my experience, the best ways to do this, but there's certainly not a single right way. So if you want to skip a step and you feel like that's not going to hinder your process, or if you want to do something differently because someone else has done this, then that's fine. I'm just trying to give you an overview of everything we're going on. Okay, so in a nutshell, this is what your virtual ensemble is going to look like. You have to select repertoire, so a choir piece, a band piece, something for theater, something for dance. Select your repertoire. Then you need to secure the rights for it. Technically, you can secure rights at any point in time, but doing it at the beginning means that you don't get a surprise at the end. You need to send practice resources to your students. So this can be music they're going over. This can be demonstrations. This can be whatever helps them practice. Then you're going to receive excerpts from them that you can evaluate, that you can give them tips on, that you can help them improve, and lead rehearsals to help further that process. After that, you're going to send them a prompt, which is all the instructions and everything they need to actually do their performance recording. You're going to compile those recordings. You're going to edit the audio. You're going to edit the video, and then you're going to share it. 10 steps, and we're going to go through those steps in a much greater detail